Hi, Lyzette. Welcome back.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you doing? Nice to see you again.
I'm doing okay. Everything has been really going okay in my life, but I'm still fighting with my fiance. And about 3 days ago, we actually got into an aggressive argument, and I broke my phone out of frustration when we had that argument.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. It sounds like you didn't have a good week. Do you want to talk about what resulted in your phone breaking?
Yeah. My fiance got frustrated because I forgot to pay a bill. And we began arguing, and from there it led to him calling me names that I would personally discuss that they're really disgusting, and I became really pissed off that he started calling me those names, and I noticed I was clenching my hand really tightly when that happened, and I had my phone in my hand, and I actually turned around and I threw my phone at the kitchen floor, which at this point I broke my phone, and he ended up leaving the house and slamming the door behind him.
Wow. Wow. What I'm hearing is you had a conflict with your fiance because the bill wasn't paid on time, which then he began calling you these derogatory names that upset you and frustrated you. And out of that frustration, you threw your phone, and it resulted in it breaking, and your fiance leaving. Is that right?
That's correct. I actually, to be honest, I wanted to throw the phone at him, but and hit him as well, because those names they really hurt, and my ex used them all the time, and I've told him countless of times, not to call me those names, especially since those names are like referring to his accusations of me cheating on him, and I've never cheated on him, during the duration of a relationship. So now I have no phone, which I need for work, and I have to use it. So I have to either spend a couple $100s to fix it, or I won't have anything for work.
Yeah. Well, as at first, I would like to say that I am proud of you. You are actually able to think quickly in that moment that you were upset and choose not to hit your boyfriend with your phone. So I do want to say that I'm proud of that. It actually shows that you're using a skill that I wanted to talk to you about today. First, do you feel like you're aware of when you're beginning to go into crisis?
In the moment, I don't actually realize that I am, sometimes, but looking back, I start to feel my anger building up, definitely to the point where I don't have control.
Okay. Can you tell me what that feels like for you?
So when I become getting angry, my heart begins to race. My face usually starts to feel quite hot and run red, and then I feel like this adrenaline just rushing through my body.
Yes, okay. And what you're feeling is your emotion mind starting to take over. So once this happens, the impulsive actions tend to follow. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good. So that leads me into the stop skill that I wanted to educate you about. So anytime that you're feeling those symptoms that you described, instantly just stop. Just stop yourself in the moment, like literally freezing in the moment.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be hard.
Yeah, it will take practice, which is why I want to inform you now so you can begin to, start practicing and working on it anytime that you feel like you're in a crisis situation. So just talking a bit about the STOP acronym. The S stands for stop. The T is take a step back. The O is observe. And the P is proceed mindfully. So remember, in a crisis situation, you are the boss of your own emotions.
So I would use essentially this skill when another argument begins to happen between my fiance and I.
Yeah, you can use it during those moments, but it's not just limited to those arguments. It can be used when you feel like you're having a crisis and your emotions start to take over and you begin to act impulsively. You can use it in those moments as well.
Yeah, I understand what you're referring to.
Okay. So taking this skill in mind when when you utilize it, taking this skill in mind when would you utilize the stop skill and how?
So for me in particular, I think the biggest argument I have with my fiance that usually leads to me acting out impulsively,
Mm-hmm.
and he calls me names. So it doesn't fail that I either destroy something or begin to yell, and sometimes even call him names that creates a situation to become worse than what it already is.
Okay. So now that you have that situation in mind, when would you begin to use the first part of the skill that discusses stop? Are you able to identify what the S refers to?
Yeah, you mentioned it stands for stop. So for me, I could stop and not react to him calling me names when I hear him using those, which I notice that usually always causes me to get angry.
Great. So stop begins with not reacting as well as not moving a muscle. So in that moment, freeze for a moment. Then this will help you prevent how your emotions will, normally make you behave. Now, what could you do for the second part, which is taking a step back?
Well, after freezing, like you mentioned, I could walk away for a few seconds and kind of just take a deep breath so I can calm myself at that time. I usually am riled up, so I think for me that could possibly be the best idea is just taking a deep breath.
Okay, good. That sounds like a good idea that, you can utilize during that moment. Now, what do you believe you can do after taking a step back and, taking a deep breath?
For me, I believe for me, I can kind of look into why my fiance is saying these words. Usually, essentially, why is he upset? What is causing the argument? And we can discuss what is leading up to the conflict.
That's true. You can begin observing these details of the argument, including your emotions, both you and your fiance are feeling in that moment. So, lastly, how can you proceed mindfully in this situation?
Well, proceeding mindfully, I can begin by telling my fiance that, of course, I would not like to be called those names. Ask him again just to respect that, and ask him to be mindful of his emotions and feelings as to why he's upset. From there, we can kind of have a discussion about what is causing the fighting, and eventually, avoid many consistent arguments that we're kind of having.
Good, really good. So those are definitely some great solutions that you can begin practicing with your fiance. To discover why there are so many arguments between you two, while at the same time keeping you from acting impulsively on those urges. So by using this stop skill, you can begin taking the steps that will not result in you breaking other items, along with avoiding having that urge to hit your fiance as well. So I would like you to begin practicing this skill this week. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good. I definitely believe I can try to use that skill, definitely so I can avoid a lot of those impulsive things that I do.
Okay, great. Yeah, I definitely would love for you to, utilize this as homework. And like we already discussed, I know it's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, especially in the moment when you are getting called these names that you really don't like, and that really upsets you. But it's something that I would like to see you practice. Hopefully it works out for you, especially in the moment when your boyfriend is upset too. He's not learning this skill, but when you freeze, it'll probably click something in him like, okay, you're not responding anymore, you're not going back and forth yelling. So maybe it could also do something for him in the moment and get him to, kind of calm down. So, do you think you can do that?
Yeah, I definitely think I can try to utilize that.
Okay, well, it was really good seeing you this week, Lyzette, and I will see you next time we meet.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.